I am Kenyan Scottish, so I grew up in Kenya, surrounded by stories. And then when I was a teenager, we moved to Edinburgh. My father is Scottish. And in Edinburgh, suddenly I was exposed to a different way of consuming stories. But it's been a real privilege to grow up in Scotland, which is very, very proud of its oral traditions. So this wonderful kind of wild Kenyan growing up with stories, and then as a young adult growing up in Edinburgh, has kind of led me on this wonderful journey to story. And stories for me, they're just so filled with wonder. And wonder just takes you on pathways that you've never really thought about before. You don't ever consider them. They're not conscious to you, but wonder is such an amazing thing because it's making all of these invisible connections. And for me, that is the magic of story. It's the wonderment, it's the connecting, because we all are seeking connection in every way. And when you're with your students, when you tell a story, you're trying to reach them and make them feel that that story you're telling is just for them. It's that connection between you and the audience. And stories, they create these beautiful little hooks. You know, when somebody is wondering, when a child is wondering, when we are wondering, we're also trying to, we're taking something that we know about ourselves, but then we're connecting it to the unknown. What if? I wonder. Why? It begins to pose all of these questions. And so a story enables somebody to reach for something that perhaps was not in them when the story first started. And that's where the magic begins. Which brings me to stories. And I think that there are four magical ingredients to a story. Now, the first one is how stories give us feelings. I mean, what kind of feelings did you have when you heard the story?
Joy.
Some joy, curiosity, trepidation, anticipation. So many feelings come up when we're listening to a story. And everybody loves the feelings that we get when we're taking in our stories. But there's the wonderful quote by Maya Angelou: you will forget the story, you will forget the storyteller, but you will never forget how it made you feel. And for me, that is probably one of the most powerful things about stories, because they shift us, they change us, they transform us in certain ways. And if we look at the science of stories being, or lectures, the retention is so much greater with story, as I'm sure we all already know. And I was trying to find the statistics, and I'm terrible with maths. And I'm hoping that the statistics are right, but I think it's something like 10% of information, or students will retain information if it's purely just fact-based. You know, this is how the Amazon started a long time ago, and then the science of it and all the rest of it. Whereas when something is revealed through story, then it's about 65% retention. And if you were to discuss the topic a couple of weeks later, then it's still quite high, around 40%. So the way that we are placing those little cognitive hooks through story is so important in how we actually retain information. So stories have a way of connecting us across time, across place, across culture, across anything that humans have found a way to divide us all up. So the next thing, one of the other magic ingredients, there's four of them, so there's the feelings, there's the mirror, but it's the patterns that we can see in stories, and how we can connect something that is happening in one story, how can we apply it somewhere else? So these patterns that we pull from different stories are incredibly important to us, not just for learning, but also for how we apply that learning. And that leads to the fourth magic ingredient, which is, it's information and transformation. And it's very easy to learn stuff. We have got, in fact, the children now, the students now have access to all the knowledge in the world at their fingertips. They probably they know how to access that knowledge better than we do as well. And there is a very, very big difference between having that knowledge and access to that knowledge, and then how do we apply it? Storytelling is about connection. You can have the most perfect, the most wonderful story, but if you're not engaging with your audience or with the students, then that story actually means absolutely nothing. So work with your audience, bring them in, ask them questions, find ways for them to be part of the story that you are actually telling. And it doesn't matter whether they're 4 years old or whether they're 16, 17 years old, all of those ways of bringing them in are finding ways for you to tell and share stories together.